Good afternoon. Kate Shipp here. It's been a while since I've come on live, so we are going to be talking today about embodying faith in these uncertain times. I'm streaming via StreamYard, so if you guys can see me, let me know that you're here. For those that don't know me, I'm a yoga therapist specializing in trauma recovery and mental health. So I use practices of yoga and energy medicine techniques, as well as a Christ-centered awareness to help clients from all over the world re-find safety in their body and live a life that they love. So if you're here with me, let me know you're here. Say hello, type in the comments. Let me know you're with me. I see a few people are jumping on. Hi, you guys. If you're not registered with StreamYard, it's just going to say Facebook user. If you don't want to register with StreamYard, totally fine. Just let me know in the comments who it is so I know that you're there. Hi, Brandy. I'm not sure who these other Facebook users are. Hi, you guys. I was just listening to House of Mary Magdalene, Divine Timing. Oh, I love that. So House of Mary Magdalene is Megan Watterson's membership community where she gives beautiful teachings on the Gospels of Mary and really, really focusing on the love that lives within inside of us. Hi, Susie. I kind of figured that was you, but I didn't want to assume. So hi, you guys. Thanks for being here. We are talking embodying faith in uncertain times. Over the past 2 weeks, I have had more emails, messages, text messages asking me what I am doing to stay focused and centered, to stay peaceful and calm during what has now become a year and a half of intensity. And by no means do I have all the answers. I do have tips, tools, practices that I've used for a very long time that I have passed on to clients, friends, colleagues that I believe are helpful, that kind of bring us back to neutral, which is super important during times like this. It may not be that you're feeling happy all the time, but can we get the nervous system to balance out in a neutral place? So we're going to talk a little bit about that today. I would appreciate and so gratefully love your interaction and engagement while we're talking. So if you are someone that's willing to participate in the comments, thank you for doing so. It helps to keep energy flowing and moving as well, and helps me to know what's really working for you. Where do you have more questions? If there's things that I say that you want further information on, let me know that as well. So if you want to register with StreamYard, there should be a link that you can do that to register and your name will appear. Otherwise, just let me know. So first and foremost, there seems to be this overlying concern over, when is this all going to end? And we have no idea, right? And what does end even mean? And so I think there's something important to be said about getting really present with yourself right now and noticing what is happening within myself right now. And I'm going to give you guys a little bit of acronym with the word faith, because it's a helpful technique in those moments where maybe your nervous system feels anxious, or maybe you're starting to shut down because your system has overloaded on stress and you're just struggling with finding that balance point. So I'm going to work an acronym of faith, and then we're going to talk about a couple other ways to navigate fear. And my hope is that something that's shared today speaks to your heart and gives you another tool to use to add to what is already a growing toolbox that you have. So it looks like someone is saying, hi, Chrissy. I feel grounded today. This weekend, I experienced a town of people that are so kind. It did my nervous system a world of good. How beautiful is that? So the understanding that kind of changing our scenery sometimes and getting around kind and loving people can be really regulating for our nervous system. So I'm going to backtrack a moment, and I recognize that some people may not understand what does it mean when a nervous system is regulated. So our nervous system is kind of our internal awareness of what's happening around us. And if you think of it that way, it's this system that runs inside of me, my autonomic nervous system, is responding to information happening outside of me. And that information happening outside of me, I may or may not be aware of. Oftentimes, our nervous system is responding in a subconscious way, meaning we have no idea that it's doing it. most people who struggle with anxiety may not even be aware that they're anxious until after it's already looping in their system, and it presents as either thought forms that keep like replaying, or physical symptomatic experiences that then are labeled as anxiety: heart racing, heavy chest, like twisted stomach, sweaty palms, throat closing, tingling, other sensations in the body that then we label. So that a nervous system in regulation means that we're able to be rationally aware and emotionally mindful. So both collaborate together. So we're able to have this awareness that says, this is what's happening right now, this is true. And then the awareness that says, and this is how I'm experiencing it. So we have a safety within ourselves, as well as this social awareness outside of us. What becomes tricky is oftentimes we have no idea what's happening in our nervous system for various reasons. And our nervous system is often responding to what's happening in life based on things that happened before. So if you think of your nervous system as like an internal storage device, it has stored all of the experiences you've ever had. And when something in your present day life matches the energy of something that happened before, not a situation, but the energy, your nervous system might respond as it did a long time ago. So the messages I've been receiving from people are, I don't understand why my body's responding as if I'm in a trauma response, although there's no trauma happening around me or to me right now. So that is described as what's called neuroception, which was a term coined by Stephen Porges, founder of polyvagal theory. And neuroception is your nervous system's perception of what's happening in your life right now. And what's happening in your life right now, for some reason, is mirroring something that reminded your nervous system of what happened a long time ago. Okay, so I want you to notice this, because these are things that are not within our control. We do not have control over how our nervous system is perceiving this environment that we're living in right now. What we do know is that it's pretty normal to be experiencing some kind of dysregulation of your nervous system through these unprecedented times. I'm actually more concerned when people tell me they're totally fine all the time, because that often can be a sign of disconnect, of something they're not registering their awareness inside their body. They're not aware of their emotions or their thoughts, and they're very disconnected from what's happening within them. And that's a survival technique as well, a conversation for another time. Someone saying, yes, this has been my life for the past 2 months. Okay, so we're getting some validation of this information being shared that says these are my experiences. And I think it's important to hear this is normal. That is not unusual. And there's something to be said when we recognize we're not alone in this. There's a lot of people going through the same experience and perceiving it differently based on their nervous system's prior experiences in their life. Okay, so the whole world is going through this experience of COVID. Many billions of people experiencing things in a different way. And why is it that we can have one community of people that's doing really well and one community that's not doing really well? And there's all sorts of science behind this, right? There's generational patterning, there's ancestral patterning, there's access to resources, there's financial privilege, there's resource privilege. There is a difference in when it comes to our ethnicities and how we're receiving these different experiences in life. So at the baseline, though, all humans have a nervous system. So I'm taking it to the baseline information here because I don't know everyone's situation that's watching this. I do know that every human has a nervous system of some kind. And I do know that there are key components of our nervous system that help us stay in balance. We're so uniquely designed and brilliantly designed in that way. And there's certain things that throw some people off, and there's things that throw others off, meaning they're out of balance, they're out of harmony within themselves. It has been my experience, and by no means do I have all these answers, like I've said before. For me, The word and the energy of faith is what keeps me solid throughout this. And I'm not talking about religion. So those that know me know I have a very deep relationship with Christ and the energy of love. When I speak the word faith, I'm not talking about becoming religious or joining religion. What I'm talking about is getting so clear on what you have faith in that will hold you in these times where nothing else makes sense, where everything else seems so cloudy and murky and messy and maybe scary for some people and confusing. And I am of the belief that all of those feelings are valid and none of them are wrong or bad. And that may be different than what you've heard before. Okay? That emotions are not bad. There are no bad or negative emotions. The words that we use to describe emotions are based on symptoms of sensation in our body. So every emotion that we experience as a human, which is a gift that we get to experience these emotions, give us information on what's happening inside our body. So when you feel angry, you have certain symptoms looping in your body that tell you, oh, I'm experiencing anger. When you're feeling depressed, you have a certain series of symptoms that present in your body that help you know, oh, I'm feeling depressed. Caveat to that, I'm talking about the feeling of depression, not the clinical diagnosis thereof. That's different for some people. Right? When we feel joyful, there are different experiences in our body that tell us we're having an experience of joy, different sensations in our body that tell us we're having an experience of joy. For me, and maybe for some of those of you that are watching, faith becomes this rock and this anchor that I can sink into no matter what is happening around me or within me to steady me. So I use the term anchor intentionally. And I'm going to give you a little example. So I enjoy paddleboarding. I recently, just the past year and a half, have started really enjoying that more. And I have a friend who has a few paddle boards. And a couple of weeks ago, she brought one of her paddle boards over to my house, an inflatable one. And I was doing some exercise in my pool on the paddle board. And I was really trying to focus on balance and being aware of experiencing sensations in my body on this paddleboard. And, you know, we're in my pool, which is not very big. Like the paddleboard fits, but it doesn't have a ton of space, you know, on either side. And I said to her, I'm like, how do people do this? Like in the middle of the ocean or in the middle of the lake. And I've been out on the lake with her paddling and on the board, you know, standing, sitting, kneeling, all those things. And I'm like in the water and these waves are coming, you know, and the board is rocking and it's like, oh my gosh, how am I going to find my balance? And I go, how do they do this? I see people in handstands and I see people in headstands and they're doing all these, what I'll call like more difficult poses of yoga on this board. And she's like, Kate, they have an anchor that they drop to the bottom of the water to balance their board. They attach it to their board and they drop it down so the board doesn't like move as much all over. And I was like, oh, that's how they do it. Right. So you may be like, okay, like, of course that's how. I really hadn't thought to myself, oh, they attach an anchor to their board to keep it steady in the water. And I was like, oh, well, that's faith. If we forget to drop our anchor, if we forget that we have something that can steady us in this time of really, really big or subtle waves that are going on right now, we will lose sight of the shore, right? We will float out and what is going to take us, right? What's going to carry us away? We get carried away in the waves instead of anchoring in and letting them move. So faith becomes this anchor, and I'm going to give you this acronym in a moment so you can write this down if you have pen and paper or if you want to go grab it real quick. We're going to break down this concept of faith from a very rational place, not from the more energetic, esoteric faith that is so deep within us, but also from this navigation of how do I take this concept of faith and apply it in an accessible way to create healthy change in my life. So I'm going to pause and look at some of these comments. Hi, Elise. Susie, you've been leaning on faith heavily lately. Okay. I love this, you guys, because faith is different for everyone. And if you're someone who experiences faith as your anchor in your life, share that in the comments, because here's what I know. Some people find their faith in angels, archangels, God. They find their faith in the universe. They find their faith in nature. They find their faith in crystals, in using other types of tools that really bring them back to center. And so what I find faith to be is believing in what we cannot see to hold us steady in uncertain times, right? Believing in what we cannot see to hold us steady in uncertain times. That helps us to be like, I don't have control of what's happening in the world outside of me. That's something I learned a long time ago. If that's something that you haven't navigated yet, I encourage you to just be with that statement for a moment. You have no control over things that are happening outside of you. You have 100% control over what's happening inside of you, even when it feels like you don't. And I know that oftentimes it definitely feels like you don't, especially if you're someone who's navigating trauma recovery. And the goal is to give you your power back over yourself and over your body, instead of feeling like you're powerless to something outside of you. So I honor those of you that are listening, that is your journey right now. I've walked that journey. It is intense, okay? And I encourage you to walk it, because it's worth it. It's worth what's on the other side. Susie said, many of us are experiencing fear that we're not sure where it's coming from. Do I think that people who have been pushing emotions down are finding that harder than now? Susie, I absolutely do. There is this really underlying fear that's starting to kind of boil. If you think of like a volcano, right? It only bursts because there's so much energy underneath that's starting to stir, that starts pushing it up to finally, right? And everyone has their own capacity for their ability to manage emotions. If someone has had the tendency to sweep the emotions under the rug, to push it away, to, avoid it, to numb it, to repress it, unfortunately and fortunately, our nervous system can only hold so much before it implodes on itself. So there's a lot of people right now who don't have emotional regulation skills, that are struggling to find ways to navigate this. And I'm going to give a few ideas today. Please hear me. By no means is anything that I give in place of professional help and support. So this is not meant to be therapy on film. This is meant to be, we're going to collect some tools and talk about some practices that maybe you can employ in your life that could make a difference in your experience of these emotions that you're having. I do highly encourage, if you're someone listening who is struggling, right, who is struggling repetitively and can't seem to find their ground, to please reach out and get some professional help. You deserve that. So this acronym of faith, everything I do is body-based. Those that know me, those that don't, being a yoga therapist, everything works through the body and within the body. And in trauma recovery, we have to work through the body to be able to clear the nervous system from holding on to the past. Oftentimes, the nervous system is bringing the past into the present moment so that you can clear it out, so you don't have to live in that cycle anymore. Hi, Brenda. So one of the things that I talk about with faith is this letter F, is being focused. We have to be able to focus on what is happening right now. So using that question to get yourself in the present moment. So writing that question out, what is happening for me right now? So that's the F of faith, is focus. We want to be here right now. What's happening right now? So right now, my feet are on the ground. I'm sitting in a chair, right? Looking at myself teaching on a screen, which is kind of weird sometimes, right? I see your comments side of me. There's a bright light here. I see lights behind me. I'm aware of the temperature in my room. I'm aware my mouth is getting a little dry from talking so much. So present moment awareness of what's happening right now. Focus, right? What is happening right now? Then the second, the A of faith, is this awareness. What is happening in my body? What is happening in my mind? What are my thoughts like right now? What emotions am I experiencing? Is there anything going on within my spirit that I need to attend to? So the F being focus, the A being an awareness, being able to start labeling, this is what I'm experiencing in my body. This is what I'm experiencing in my mind. These are the emotions that I'm experiencing right now. And maybe yes, maybe no. There's some of you that are really tuned into spirit. There's a spiritual awareness happening at the same time. Then I look at the letter I, which stands for intentional. What is, and this is so important, what is one thing that I can do in this moment to be more fully present? What is one thing that I can do in this moment to be more fully present? So we want to get really intentional with our actions. So may not be able to solve what's happening tonight or tomorrow or 5 months from now, but what can you be intentional with right now? What is one thing that you can do? Can you drink a glass of cold water, which helps the nervous system? Can you stand up and do 25 jumping jacks, which helps the nervous system? Can you go outside and put your feet in the grass and feel the sun or the rain, depending on your weather, on what's happening within your body? Can you call a friend who you know is really good at supporting you or just listening if you're struggling? Right? Can you go on a trampoline? Can you run in place? Can you take 5 really big breaths, like 5 of those helps clear the nervous system, right? So one thing that you can do to be more fully present in this moment. Then we move to the letter T, right? So truth. I use the letter T as truth, and I ask myself this question: what is one truth that I know absolutely that I can believe in? The answer to that is different for everyone. My one truth that I know that I can believe in is I can handle this. That is a truth that I've had to really focus on, is because my ego self may not be able to handle it, but through my relationship with love that lives inside of me, I can handle it. So I often have to remind myself of that, is in these hard moments where everything seems kind of chaotic, where there's a lot of fear, I can say to myself, Kate, you can handle this. It may be hard, and I can handle it. It may be uncomfortable, and I can handle it. I know that is true because I'm here right now with you. So everything that's ever happened to me in the past, in some way I've handled, because I'm existing right now in this moment, 1:23 p.m., September 21st, 2021, right, in Phoenix, Arizona. Everything that's happened up until this point, I've gotten through. Maybe not always well, and maybe not in the best ways, but I'm here. So that is a truth I can name. So what is the one truth that you can really own, that you know no matter what is true for you? And then the H is for harmony. How can I pivot, turn towards, lean into being more harmonious in my nervous system? So if I find myself to be anxious, right, I need to do something to put that extra energy. So being anxious and sitting still is not productive nor intuitive. When we feel anxiety, we don't want to just sit still. We need to get that burn off first, and then we can come back into stillness. So for someone who's anxious, leaning towards harmony might be they need to go on a walk, or they need to do something to exert some energy, like jump roping, right? Or some squats. Squats are great for balancing out anxiety because it gets the center of gravity to drop towards the earth, and then they can find some stillness. If you're someone who feels really stuck, right, and you're frozen, and to lean towards harmony means you need to get up and move your body, but getting up and moving your body when you feel stuck is really difficult. So then we want to focus on breathing and tapping on the body. We want to get energy flowing in the body again and start moving it in a different way. So maybe if you're like sitting and you're frozen, you're like, okay, I don't know what to do. Get the inhales really long and full, moving through you. Start doing some gentle arm tapping like this on both sides, right? You can do alternate tapping like this. You can start bouncing your feet. You need to get just some gentle rhythmic movement going in your body. Better if it's right, left alternating than both at the same time, right? So we have this focus, the word faith. Focus, what's happening right now. Awareness, what's going on in my body, what's happening in my mind, what's happening in my emotions, what's happening with my spirit, if that's something you attune to. Being intentional, the I for intentional. What is one thing I can do right now, right, to help myself? T being for truth. What is one truth that I know to be true always? There's nothing going to change it. Right? One of the other ones that I focus on a lot is that I am loved. That is true. Whether I feel loved or not, I know it is true that I am loved. And then H is harmony. What is one thing I can do to bring my nervous system back into a little bit of harmony? So the faith doesn't become this esoteric concept or woo-woo or metaphysical or new agey or things like that. It's a very grounded, embodied experience that says, I have some power and control over what's happening within me, and I can take the right action to bring myself back into balance. So that's the faith piece. I'm going to pause here for a moment and see if there's any comments, questions on this before I move into another element that's important for what we're talking about today. Hi, Lee. Hi, Kelly. Thank you guys for being here. Is there anyone that has any commentary, questions about what I shared with the acronym for faith and the questions and practices you can do for yourself within that? I know that was fast. I'm not seeing anything pop up yet. So if you're watching this back on replay, please type the word replay. You can tag me if you want. That way I can come back and look at your comments at another time to be able to follow up with you as necessary in that. Okay, I'm going to keep rolling since I'm not seeing anything else coming through yet. If you've joined me and you're kind of listening in, say hello. Let me know that you're here. I appreciate those that are willing to kind of join in on the conversation. I also appreciate those that are more comfortable sitting back and listening and observing. All of you have value in being here with me. Thank you so much. Okay. All right, just scrolling through to make sure I didn't miss anything. Next pieces. So there's a lot of teachings that talk about fear being something we need to avoid, something that is wrong or bad or unhealthy for us to experience. And here's what I want to name. There's nothing wrong with fear. Fear is actually a very normal, healthy human emotion that we need to have to alert us that something is off in our environment and we're reacting to that. So understanding that fear is not something you have to exorcise out of your life. It's not something that you have to completely get rid of. It's not something to be avoided. It is not something to be ashamed of or afraid of. Fear is simply an energy, just like any other emotion, that is trying to get your attention. In the work I do with people on parts theory and parts therapy, fear is labeled as an aspect of self that is scared because of something that happened prior to this present moment that needs your attention. So if you're someone who ascribes to this understanding that we have this wholeness that we are, right? The capital S self, the whole capacity, the I amness, the potential that we are, right? Our true being essence. And then there's aspects of ourself, lowercase s, that present in different situations through our day-to-day life. And oftentimes those aspects of ourself, we don't even aware that they're there until we know that they're there. Once we have an awareness of our wholeness, of this higher capacity that we are, then it's easier to become aware of when an aspect of self is starting to present instead. So we're going to label fear is an aspect of self, meaning it's not who you are. Right? Who you are is love. Fear presents to say, I don't feel safe right now, right? Because every human has an innate desire for safety, love, and connection. And when that safety is removed, right, then there can be this internal, I'm afraid. And often we're afraid because we don't know what's to come, or we're afraid of the past repeating itself, or we're afraid for our own safety or for our loved one's safety or for survival. And without going into a lot of the trauma pieces, this is often rooted in childhood development that may or may not be conscious. So important to understand, fear is simply energy, and it's not trying to hurt you. Right? It's simply trying to gain or gather your awareness inside yourself. So Susie's labeling in the comments that fear and excitement have a similar body sensation. So is her, am I fearful, or could this be excitement? So that's a layer of discernment that I may or may not be able to talk to fully today. But I'm going to put a little tag on that, Susie, for myself. So if you think about something that makes you feel afraid, let's do something with me here on this, okay? I think experiential learning is the most powerful learning, because when we can feel something and we can then make a powerful change inside, now we have power and control over what's happening within us. So I'm going to invite you to you can close your eyes if you want, you can keep your eyes open. Just think of something that makes you feel slightly afraid, right? Like if on a 0 to 10, let's look at a number 1 to a 2, right? Like I don't mind snakes. I'm a little afraid of them. So that would be like a 1 to 2 for me. I certainly don't want snakes in my home. I don't want them as pets. I really don't want them on my property. If I see a snake out in the desert, I don't want anything to do with it. I'm less afraid of it than if it's on my own backyard. So I'm going to use a snake as an example. So if I'm slightly afraid of snakes, and the moment I think about, oh my gosh, what would I do if there was a snake on my back patio, right? I can already feel my heart start to flutter a little bit, like right up here, okay? I get this fluttering in my heart, and I feel my low belly start to tighten and my toes curl up, right? That's one of my fear responses. Fluttery heart, tight tummy, toes curl. Okay, I'm aware of that. So notice for yourself, if you just think about something that causes you to feel slightly afraid, what are the body sensations? And I want you to see if you can label 2 to 3 for yourself. And you might even on a piece of paper want to write the word fear, body sensation. So you can start tracking, oh, isn't this interesting? Right? I'm feeling my toes curl up. What am I afraid of right now? Because that's a sign that there's fear. Or my stomach is tightening and my heart's racing. Those are some of my body's way of telling me that I'm experiencing fear right now. The next piece, right, is if you can place a hand on that part of you, if it's available, is to be able to say, it's safe to feel this, right? Meaning it's safe to experience the sensation of fear in your body. It is energy moving through you, right? Just like water moves through our drains in our home. It is energy moving through your system. So fluttery here, tight belly, toes curled. It's safe to feel this. This is fear. This is the energy of fear in my body. That helps you name it and notice it, and it starts to neutralize it right there. A next layer in could be, what do I need right now? What is this fear trying to tell me? And so if I have a snake outside of my patio, I'm standing inside my doors and I see the snake and I'm like, okay, there's a snake outside, right? I can feel afraid. What do I need right now? I need to get some support, because knowing myself, I'm not going to go touch that snake. So what is one action I can do to help give myself what I need, right? So then you ask yourself, what is it that I need right now? What is one thing that I could do to help myself in this moment? In that moment, if this were happening, I need support. I'm not going to go outside and take care of the snake myself. What is the one thing I could do? I'm probably going to call a snake removal service. And those are very common here. I'm in Phoenix, Arizona. So these are very common here, right? So, and it's recognizing that, okay, I had the body awareness. I was able to notice it and name it, and then tune in, what do I need right now to help resolve why it's there? And then I need to take action on it. And sometimes it's hard to know what you need. Oftentimes I hear from people, well, I have no idea what I need. So you can start noticing for yourself, okay, what are some options of needs? Do I need to, eat something? Do I need to drink something? Do I need to call somebody? Do I need to remove myself from the situation? Do I need to, move my body in a little bit of way to get some energy flowing and moving in my system, right? Just moving our arms, moving our legs, just getting some things flowing through. And those of you that have followed me for a while, I think it was in the springtime, I did a live that said the 90-second roller coaster. And you can look back either on my YouTube channel or in my other videos to watch it if you haven't, on how emotional energy lives for 90 seconds in our nervous system if we let it complete its course. If we start telling a story about what we're experiencing, then it's going to keep looping through. So the story will always keep you stuck. It's just the nature of story. The sensations will set you free. I shared a post on this recently. Our story keeps us stuck. It loops it. How many times have we retold the same story over and over and over again, right? If you can drop into sensation, even for 5 seconds or 5 breaths, it starts to set you free because you recognize you have some control over what's going on within your system. I'm not going to walk outside and take little tongs and pick up a snake and move them out, a couple miles up the road to the mountain. That's not happening. I won't do it. Okay. I also am someone who believes in letting it live. So I'm not going to chop its head off and then kill it. That's just not my thing. Right? So I need to get support to help someone to help me. And I recognize that this whole concept of naming the emotion, noticing how it's affecting you, and then what is the need or the unmet need, and then how do you meet it, could be very new. But it's a 4-step process that is really helpful. What are you noticing? What sensations are with it? What is the unmet need? How can you begin to meet that need? I encourage you to try that and see what happens. Okay, so Susie's talking about how the strongest sensations of fear were tight in her upper belly and a dry, tight throat. Okay, Susie, thank you for naming those. It might help other people gather some information sensationally inside them of what's happening. Lee is saying, I feel like I don't typically have things I'm only slightly fearful of, at least not that I can think of. For myself, I feel like I'm either super fearful or I'm not. So in that situation, it's important to begin to expand your awareness of the layers of fear. This reminds me of, for many years, I worked a lot with people with chronic pain diagnosis, and they couldn't discern a paper cut of pain versus extreme nerve pain. Everything was pain, to the point of where we didn't use the word pain anymore. It was removed from their vocabulary. And the words they had to start using were different adjectives to describe what they were experiencing. So instead of pain, it became, it's burning, it's tingling, right? It's itchy, it's achy, it's throbbing, right? It feels like it's stabbing pain, right? It feels like a subtle little trickle of some needles in my skin, right? We start using other words to describe the experience that give it a more kinesthetic and tangible awareness. So in this case, Lee, I would encourage you to look at what is the spectrum of sensation of fear. Get rid of the label of I'm super fearful and start noticing, how is that being experienced in your body? How do you know you're super fearful? Is it a thought form? Is it embodied awareness? Like, these are the sensations of super fear. And instead, start replacing it. Instead of, I'm super fearful, no, I feel like my whole body is collapsing inward on itself and I want to run and hide. I feel like I can't sit still. I'm so afraid that if I sit still, something's going to happen. Right? So replacing the word with the adjective can be very helpful. Very, very helpful and empowering for people. The other thing to recognize is being able to say to yourself, this is not who I am. It's an experience that I'm having. So in this, environment that we're living in now, we're all having experiences, and everyone's experience is true. Everyone's experience is valid. Everyone deserves to be met with compassion and love and empathy for the experience that they're having. No one's experience is more important than anyone else's. No one's experience is more right than anyone else's. No one's beliefs are more right than anyone else's. Everyone is entitled to their experience that they're having, and for that experience to be met and held with love. Really important, because the moment our experience is met with compassion, any unhealthy energy around that experience starts to dissolve. So if I have someone in my life that believes something very different than myself, and I meet their experience with, well, you're wrong, or it's not right for you to believe this way, or I start throwing things at them to try and prove that my belief and experience is right or better, that relationship is going to end up in turmoil, and it's going to become even more unhealthy for both of us. That same person, if we believe differently or are having different experiences during this time, and I validate their experience by saying, I hear you. I hear that you're saying this and that this is your experience during this time. They're much more likely to lean into harmony, to lean into grace and compassion, and to meet me there. And instead of people trying to one-up each other, mine's better, the way I think is better, we become more harmonious in our energy. And when there's harmony, then there can be healthy action. When there's disharmony, we are normally reacting in an unhealthy way. That goes for internally and externally. So really important to try and bring yourself back into harmony as easily as you can. The other piece to be able to name is the difference between fear as emotion and fear as who you are. So fear as emotion is, I feel afraid because. And sometimes just saying that and filling that statement in now helps you resolve it. I feel afraid because. Fill that in. Instead of, I am afraid because. So in scripture, in biblical scripture, the be not afraid, do not be afraid is listed 365 times, once for every day of the year. I think that's fascinating. It's very clear how it's stated. It is not stated in saying you won't feel afraid. In fact, there's promises made that you will feel afraid. There are going to be experiences in life, for some people you're in one right now, where fear is true. Okay, meaning it makes sense that people actually experience fear right now because we're in times that are unknown. So fear is not irrational right now. It becomes irrational when you wear it as who you are. When you start putting on this clothes of fear, instead of recognizing I'm experiencing this. I feel afraid because. So the difference in the discernment between do not be afraid, the word be is important. The word be relates to who you are. You are not fear. It is an experience that is happening, and it's valid and real, and it's okay. The other side of that is, because I feel afraid, I need to do this. And the do this goes back to, what do I need to help support myself through this? And there's no shame or harm in getting the help and support that you need to navigate fear more easily. Maybe you need to start learning how to breathe differently. Maybe you need to start learning about mindfulness or meditation practices that are very well studied to show the effects that they have on reducing fear and anxiety. Right? It's amazing what simple breathing techniques and mindfulness techniques that bring you into the present moment without judgment of what is happening in that moment can do for your system, right? You can research studies yourself, but it's proven that mindfulness is actually working better than medicine for some people, not for all, for a majority. It's like a 60 to 70% improvement rate in symptoms of anxiety, depression, and fear versus medication. So medication has its place, right? I believe in it. People need it, right? Some people really need it. Other people have other tools that they use as well. So I encourage you to start doing an inward discovery, right? What am I experiencing within myself? So for those who are like, okay, what do I do day to day, right? I wake up in the morning, I do 10 minutes of breathing in my bed before I get out of bed. I'm going to break it down simply for you guys. Alarm goes off. My alarm are songs, set to songs that help me feel like I'm going to get up and going in the morning. I hit the snooze button, right? For those 10 minutes, I do a breathing pattern and I work prayer and intention when I'm breathing. Thank you for the gift of this day, right? I'm so grateful for the sunrise. Thank you for my body, right? Thank you for a clear, rational mind. Thank you for the capacity to be able to feel life fully through my emotions. Thank you for my connection to spirit that really anchors me in my faith every day, right? Thank you for my radiant health. Thank you for the healing that you've already delivered me, right? It's a lot of thank yous as I'm breathing, right? I get up, I start rolling out my joints, my ankles, things like that. If I'm up early, I'll do a little bit of body-based movement. If I'm racing for time because my child needs to be out the door by 6:30, right? Then some of my movement may have to go later in my day. I read a devotional every morning that speaks to my heart. I love this one. I hear his whisper, right? It's Christ-centered, but there's so many different inspirational readings. I will write an intention out for my day, either in my journal or on a sticky note. The one I have here, who I am makes a difference. Not what I do, who I am, right? So that is stuck on my wall right next to my computer, right? My intention, right? I will do things throughout the day that reground me. I go play with my dog outside in between my sessions with clients, right? Whether they're Zoom or in person, right? I drink a lot of water, right? Sometimes if I need to, I use other supplements to help my system. Right? So if there's like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? I feel really overactivated in stress and fear. I know I have to move my body. That is a signal for me that I need to get my body moving. Right? If I sit in it, I dwell in it too much. So I will usually move my body, whether that's outside, in weightlifting, in yoga poses, some type of movement, right? I will breathe. It is amazing what even just 3 minutes of breathing can do for you throughout your day, right? I will work with the energy of my dog because animals naturally help us regulate, right? They co-regulate with us. I will lay on the mat that's behind me on the floor here, and I'll do certain breathing practices, certain deep stretches to help my system. There's so many tools, you guys. There is what I'm going to say an infinite amount of tools. The best tools to use are the ones that you're going to practice. People are like, how do you know what tools to use? Use the ones that you're going to practice. My son is learning to play guitar. And I was asking his guitar teacher about buying a new guitar for him. And I said, what is like the best guitar to buy him? Because he really wants to be playing on an electric instead of his acoustic. And his answer was the one that he's going to play. The best guitar is the one that he's going to pick up and play. And I'm like, oh, that's exactly what I tell people. Right? The best tool is the one you're going to use. If I were to give you a list of 100 tools and tell you to pick 3, I would invite you to pick the 3 that you're most likely to use every day. My most used tools, right? Prayer, breath, movement. Those are my 3 go-tos in that order, usually. If prayer isn't working, I start noticing what's my breathing pattern. If my breathing pattern isn't working, right, then I start moving my body. Normally, one of these 3 will get me back into harmony and regulation. And that's really what we're looking for. Life's going to happen, whether it's extreme situations like we're in right now or minor little waves. Right? The tools don't change. We just have to use them. So there's no, and I know this sometimes sounds disheartening, but I'm saying it because it's so important. There is no magic pill. There is no end all be all. There is no, this is going to work for everyone. There isn't, this is the right way and that's the wrong way. It's whatever works for you at that time to bring you back into balance. And we are so blessed that there are, millions of different ways to help ourselves. And thankfully, you can find incredible things on YouTube, even on TikTok right now, on ways to help yourself. And I will continue to give lives to educate on different ways as well, because that seems to be really important for people. Or how do we keep our nervous system in regulation in times of high stress? All right, Susie, love that. Harmony and compassion. And think of it, harmony heals, right? Compassion connects us. If we are in disharmony, we are not going to be very kind to ourselves. And we certainly probably won't be kind to others, right? And so that it all starts within us, right? So this let peace begin with me, that's what that means. If we don't feel peaceful inside of us, peacefulness will not be experienced outside of us. So when people who are like, I want world peace, check in, do I feel peaceful? Because peacefulness in the world comes from people embodying peacefulness. That's how it works. Not rocket science, not always easy, always at the same time. So Lee's saying that makes sense. Thank you. I usually feel a very strong sensation in my stomach that shoots up to my heart, causes my heart to race. Okay. Legs start to feel tingly or numb. Quickly that starts to move upwards, tighten his body. Then I typically feel frozen. And if I don't want to move. Oftentimes that leads me to feeling physically exhausted. So if you guys are reading his comment, you can see like the process. Lee, I love this. So strong sensation in my stomach, moves to my heart starts racing. That's where we want to have what I call an interrupter, a stress interrupter. And it's so fast, I get that sometimes like you're frozen before you know it, which is really what's happening in that moment is your sympathetic nervous system is activating. Right? The fight or flight response is activating. And because action isn't being taken, the primal brain, the reptilian brain kicks in to start shutting down, right? That's the faint or freeze response. And that override that shuts you down, right, is a pathway, a neural pathway, because you needed to shut down at some point in the past to survive whatever was happening. Right? It was instinctual, intentional, and heroic. And so then why it's like you want to move, but you're stuck and you're frozen, right? So even the tiniest little bit of movement can help shift that, right? So we're stuck, we're frozen. What can I do? I can start tapping. Okay, I can start tapping at my chest and getting some energy moving, right? My whole body isn't moving, but I'm tapping, right? We can do something that helps activate a different kind of energy to get our frontal lobe to come back online, right? So, and it can be exhausting. The physical exhaustion is part of that shutdown response, right? If we were, animals in the wild, that would be to survive. We have to play dead. And as someone who's had a history of sexual trauma, I know what that means. We have to dissociate and play dead to survive. However, in most situations in life, we don't need to dissociate and play dead to survive. We need to be able to take the right action to get through what's happening. So we need to get this part of the brain to switch back on, and so that we can have mindful action while we're experiencing these emotions. So Lee, I would say as much as you can, when you start feeling that sensation in your stomach and it shoots up into your heart, get something in your body moving before the tingliness comes in, if you can. Okay, Susie, love that book. Oh, that must be the I Hear His Whisper. Yeah. And then a series of videos on ways to regulate. All right, I will consider that. It's actually on my list of some things already that I will be doing. So going forward, guys, I will do these as often as time allows for me. I will put the lives coming up soon so that you guys know and can catch them. Give me feedback. Let me know if it's working for you, if you're trying things and you want to have more experiences of that. I'm going to be putting together very soon, I'm confirming dates actually this week, for a breath work and yoga nidra 2-hour workshop. So you'll learn a breath technique, we'll practice it together, and then we'll culminate the experience with a yoga nidra for integration. That will be offered via Zoom. Please be sure you're on my email list to be able to get that information. So you can go to my website. I will type it in here. It's just kateshipp.com. And there will be a pop-up that says subscribe to the newsletter. That's how you guys can get information on my events, trainings, workshops. Those of you that are practitioners of some kind, I do have 5 spaces still available in my SHIP method of Christ-centered trauma recovery training. So I have created a program. I have 15 people that already went through it. It's amazing what they did with this program to be able to help people learn a 7-step process for processing trauma out of their system. It's not easy. It's not, again, the one-all be-all, but it does work, and it's brilliant to see this method being used. It's being used now in counseling, in recovery centers, in treatment centers, in pastoral roles. So it's really neat to see how this process is moving. So if that interests you, you can check out my website on that as well. I thank you all so much for being here. Lee is saying it happened so quickly within less than a minute. Yeah, absolutely. So Lee, what I'm going to encourage you to do is to, and this goes to anyone, this is how we can practice this, is in the moment when it's not happening, we need to practice it. So you would sit and you'd be like, okay, I'm going to bring up this experience of fear through sensation in my body. And then I'm going to breathe with it, right? And the breath is more of a diaphragmatic breathing. So it's like belly breathing up into the chest and then back down. And I'm going to practice being able to sit with the sensation instead of running from it, because it's your own energy and it's not going to hurt you. It's just uncomfortable. So we have to practice being uncomfortable so that in the moments where it does startle you, you're like, oh, I know what to do to support myself in this. And those are some experiences that I teach in other programs that I do as well, you guys. So, all right. Awesome awarenesses today. Thank you guys for sharing. Thank you for being a part of this. If you watch back on replay, let me know. And until next time, wishing you all a very beautiful, blessed day. Take care.